Man, this goes right into some stuff I'm trying to talk about this year. So if you remember, I've been saying, hey, I want to be positive. Hey, I want to talk about the things I love. I want to encourage you to talk about the things you love. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The Sosova magazine dude, whose name I don't remember, even though he did send me a book I won in a raffle. There we go. Haven't read it yet. It actually keeps the cable that connects my camera in the correct location. Like, it has become a vital part of my rig for doing comic book reviews. Thank you. But he's talking about right here, there's a lack of an indie review sphere. If you look at movies, movie creators, movie critics, and movie consumers are three completely separate and divorced pools. Now, viewers will leave like reader reviews or whatever. Like, you go to IMDb, people will leave reviews about movies, but for the most part, movie reviews come from the critical class. You don't typically see a director like Steven Spielberg doing a review of somebody else's movie. Like, that doesn't happen that often. People will get blurbs like I remember when I bought Perfect Blue back in like 1999 or whatever. There was like a pull quote from Roger Corman saying how good it was. But that's different. Also, Roger Corman's not really making. He's not like super actively making movies by the late '90s, man. His career was mostly in like the '60s and the '70s and the '80s. He made like what, I don't know, 20 movies a year or something, and they're all stinkers. But sometimes the stinkers are so bad they're fun. When you get to things that require fewer people than movies, you start running into a problem. That problem is that any kind of independent media, the primary consumers of the media are other creators of the independent media. Here's an example. I was hanging out in Las Vegas with my best friend, and I don't know who these guys were, but he had like 10 movie makers, like guys that directed independent films, come over, and we ended up watching one of them had done like a making of video for his movie, which I thought we were supposed to be watching a movie, but we watched the making of the movie. Okay, whatever. And the other people in there who are the target audience for that movie were other movie makers. And these are people that have no budget. Like, one of those dudes was talking about making his zombie samurai movie on a budget of like $800. Like, he had commissioned a soundtrack from a band, and they're like, we need $2,000 or something. And he's like, that's more than the budget of my movie. I totally can't do that, dudes. Those kind of movies, those kind of projects, independent stuff, usually don't rise above that level. You might make it to like some small film festivals, like regional stuff, but you're not going to the Venice Film Festival, or, you're not going to end up on Sundance, probably. Probably. Maybe you do. Maybe you get super lucky. Actually, does Sundance even air actual independent films anymore? I have no idea. That's kind of digressing, but we're building to a point here. All right, so hang in there with me. When you go to media that require fewer people, like video games, for example, video games can be done by a single person. A comic book can be done by a single person. A book, prose, definitely can be done by a single writer. You start getting into those media, and you get a problem. And that problem is there's a lot of that material out there. I don't know how many little tiny indie games there are out there. Go to itch.io. There's probably more games there than there are people in the United States. A lot of those games are fun. People won't ever get to play them because there's no big like indie review sphere for indie games. Just like in prose, there's no big indie review sphere for prose, except for people who are creating it. So the target audience, or the likely audience, I should say, of creators are the ones who are doing the reviews. But the problem is there's conflicts of interest there. You like somebody, you don't want to give them a bad review. You don't like somebody, you don't want to give them a good review. Your competitors, your friends. There's not a critical review group for this kind of material. And one of the things I try to do on my channel is talk about comic books. Would you like to see one? Look, it's a comic book, Scrimshaw 11. Isn't that amazing? That's pretty amazing, isn't it? And I like to talk about comic books. I like to talk about the stuff I like. I like to talk about the stuff I love. I'm trying to fulfill some of what he's talking about here, but I'm just like some dude. Now, there's a lot of other people out there that also review comic books. And many of those people are also comic book writers. I'm not. Maybe one day I would be. If I ever started doing that, I'd probably stop doing reviews for the reasons he gives down here of the conflict of interest. Like, it's really hard to give somebody you like a bad review, especially when you and they have business interests together. So the point of this video is that I'm encouraging you, whether you like weird fiction or sci-fi or whatever like he publishes, or you like comic books, you like video games or whatever, to go out there and just talk about the stuff you're reading, talk about the stuff you're watching, talk about the stuff you're playing. Say what you like, say what you don't like. Have the discussion. If you're not willing to have that discussion about the stuff you love, do you really love it? Now, I'm not saying go out there and become like a clout chaser and cause a bunch of drama and do that kind of stuff to get clicks and views. I'm talking like, look, if you read Jimmy Joe Bob's Adventures #5, talk about it. If you played Jimmy Joe Bob Battles the Martians on Steam, talk about it. Tell your friends. Maybe make a 5-minute YouTube video or a couple of tweets or something. But get it out there. Get that discussion going. If you want the things you love to prosper, if you want the creators you love to prosper, if you want other people to see the stuff they're making and maybe fall in love with it just like you, the only way that can happen is if you go into it and start sharing the love by talking about the stuff you love. All right, that's it. That's my whole point here. Also, Dolphins at Chiefs apparently is going right now, so good luck to the teams. You all have a great one, and bye-bye.